7978 and Section 10A1 of RA 11649 and for other purposes, by Representative De Jesus.
To the Committee on Ways and Means.
House Bill number 9392, an act increasing the benefits of barangay officials, including barangay tanots and members of the Lupong Tagamamayapa, granting a lump sum retirement gratuity pay equivalent to 100,000 pesos, providing other non-monetary benefits, amending for the purpose Section 393 of RA 7160, otherwise known as the Local Government Code of 1991 as amended, by Representative Olivares.
To the Committee on Local Government.
House Bill number 9393, an act instituting a national comprehensive program on autism spectrum disorder and for other purposes, by Representative Olivares.
To the Committee on Health and Special Committee on Persons with Disabilities.
House Bill number 9394, an act promoting the inclusive development and well-being of children with special needs, providing for comprehensive support systems and for other purposes, by Representative Olivares.
To the Committee on Welfare of Children.
House Bill number 9395, an act strengthening transparency, accountability, and digital literacy to combat disinformation, misinformation, malinformation, and coordinated inauthentic behavior online, recognizing an independent multi-sectoral ethical body without infringing on freedom of speech and the press and for other purposes, by Representative Olivares.
To the Committee on Public Information and the Committee on Information and Communications Technology.
House Bill number 9396, an act establishing a satellite campus of the Visayas State University and Javier Leyte, by Representative Kari.
To the Committee on Higher and Technical Education.
House Bill number 9398, an act regulating the production, importation, sale, distribution, provision, use, recovery, collection, recycling, and disposal of single-use plastic products, by Representative Colliantes.
To the Committee on Ecology.
House Bill number 9399, an act revising the charter of the Philippine Normal University, declaring it as the National University for Teacher Education and for other purposes, by Representatives Romualdez Ferdinand Martin, Romualdez Yademari, and Isidre.
To the Committee on Higher and Technical Education.
House Bill number 9400, an act providing priority employment opportunities for barangay officials who have completed their terms of office in LGUs and national government agencies, subject to civil service eligibility and for other purposes, by Representative Plato.
To the Committee on Civil Service and Professional Regulation.
House Bill number 9401, an act providing comprehensive government support and benefits for children with critical illnesses and for other purposes, by Representative Plato.
To the Committee on Health.
House Bill number 9402, an act declaring May 20 of every year a special non-working holiday in the municipality of Tudela, province of Cebu, in commemoration of its founding anniversary, by Representative Frasco.
To the Committee on Local Government.
House Bill number 9403, an act revising the charter of the Philippine Normal University, declaring it as the National University for Teacher Education and for other purposes, by Representatives Sendanya, Diokno, Ismula, and Bagao.
To the Committee on Higher and Technical Education.
House Bill number 9404, an act providing for the employment of nurses, assigning at least one registered nurse for every unserved or underserved barangay in the Philippines, and for other purposes, by Representative Zamora Isabel Maria.
To the Committee on Local Government.
House Bill number 9405, an act amending RA 8178 as amended to restore the regulatory and stabilization functions of the National Food Authority, strengthen direct farmer subsidies, ensure the active participation of civil society and people's organizations, and for other purposes, by Representatives Ismula, Diokno, Sendanya, and Bagao.
To the Committee on Agriculture and Food.
House Bill number 9406, an act imposing windfall profits tax on petroleum companies and aggregate retailers during national energy emergency and for other purposes, by Representative Suwan.
To the Committee on Ways and Means.
House Bill number 9407, an act granting civil service eligibility to long-term casual employees in government, creating special permanent positions, providing for appropriations and for other purposes, by Representatives Chan, John, Franz Norbert Osilito, and Garbin.
To the Committee on Civil Service and Professional Regulation.
House Bill 9408, an act strengthening flexibility in beneficiary designation and expanding retirement benefit options under the SSS, amending for the purpose RA 11199, otherwise known as the Social Security Act of 2018, by Representatives Chan, Dan, Franz, Norbert Osilito, and Garbin.
To the Committee on Government Enterprises and Privatization.
House Bill number 9409, an act institutionalizing a national coaches and trainers registry and certification program under the Philippine Sports Commission and the TESDA, providing standards for basic safety and sports competency certifications and for other purposes, by Representative Singson Mihan.
to the Committee on Youth and Sports Development,
House Bill 9410, an act removing VAT and other national taxes imposed on electricity consumption, amending for the purpose the National Internal Revenue Code of 1997 as amended, and other related laws to provide zero electricity tax on residential consumers and for other purposes by Representative Barzaga.
to the Committee on Ways and Means,
House Bill number 9411, an act protecting senior citizens from various forms of fraud through information dissemination and providing mechanisms therefore by Representative Nisay.
to the Committee on Senior Citizens,
House Bill number 9412, an act penalizing the malicious and deliberate dissemination of false information that undermines public order or national security, strengthening regulations on fake news through digital platforms and for other purposes by Representative Nisay.
to the Committee on Public Information and the Committee on Information and Communications Technology,
House Bill number 9413, an act providing for a free financial education to OFWs and their families by Representative Nisay.
to the Committee on Overseas Workers Affairs,
House Bill number 9414, an act declaring the University of Eastern Philippines as a national university for sustainability studies and appropriating funds therefore by Representative Asidre.
to the Committee on Higher and Technical Education,
House Bill number 9415, an act strengthening social protection and support for parents and primary caregivers of children with disabilities, providing benefits and privileges, appropriating funds therefore and for other purposes by Representative Lopez.
to the Special Committee on Persons with Disabilities,
House Bill number 9416, establishing the Bugalion Medical Center in the Municipality of Bugalion, Province of Pangasinan by Representative Kongwangko Mark.
to the Committee on Health,
House Bill number 9417, an act recognizing and regulating the use of motorcycles as PUVs and for other purposes by Representative De Lima.
to the Committee on Transportation,
House Bill number 9418, an act strengthening the disability and survivorship benefits of the Philippine National Police, amending for the purpose RA 6975, otherwise known as the Department of the Interior and Local Government Act of 1990, as amended by Republic Act number 8551 by Representative Yap Eric.
to the Committee on Public Order and Safety,
House Bill number 9419, an act granting a 10-day bereavement leave with full pay to all employees in the private and public sectors and for other purposes by Representative Yap Eric.
to the Committee on Labor and Employment and the Committee on Civil Service and Professional Regulation,
House Bill number 9420, renaming Badeo Barrio School in Badeo, Kibungan, Benguet to Nogpost Elementary School by Representative Yap Eric.
to the Committee on Basic Education and Culture,
House Bill number 9421, renaming Lanipio Barrio School in Takadang, Kibungan, Benguet to Janicio Aligang Elementary School by Representative Yap Eric.
to the Committee on Basic Education and Culture,
House Bill number 9422, an act simplifying the documentary requirements for accessing government financial assistance and for other purposes by Representative Soriano.
to the Committee on Social Services,
House Bill number 9423, an act providing for a free annual medical checkup for Filipinos and appropriating funds therefore by Representative Soriano.
to the Committee on Health,
House Bill number 9424, an act establishing a national patient navigation and referral system to strengthen healthcare delivery and delivery systems and appropriating funds therefore by Representative Soriano.
to the Committee on Health,
House Bill number 9425, an act mandating the formulation and institutionalization of a comprehensive infrastructure and development master plan, establishing the Master Plan for Infrastructure and National Development Council and appropriating funds therefore by Representative Soriano.
to the Committee on Public Works and Highways,
House Bill 9426, an act establishing the Anti-Stunting Action Plan Council in the Philippines, defining its powers and functions, appropriating funds therefore, and for other purposes by Representative Soriano.
to the Committee on Health,
House Bill number 9427, an act strengthening Presidential Decree number 1096, the National Building Code of the Philippines as amended by mandating a comprehensive nationwide inspection of buildings and imposing stiffer penalties against building officials who violate the pertinent provisions of the said code by Representative Soriano.
to the Committee on Public Works and Highways,
House Bill number 9428, an act providing compassionate and right of access to medical cannabis, expanding research into its medicinal properties and for other purposes by Representative Soriano.
to the Committee on Dangerous Drugs and the Committee on Health,
House Bill number 9429, an act to create a healthy food marketing environment House Bill number 9430, an act providing for a mandatory immunization program, repealing for the purpose RA 10152, otherwise known as the Mandatory Infants and Children Health Immunization Act of 2011, by Representative Ako.
To the Committee on Health.
House Bill number 9431, an act conferring the cadets of the PNPA the status of government employee, granting salaries, benefits, and privileges, by Representative Ako.
To the Committee on Public Order and Safety.
House Bill number 9432, an act providing for a national government initiative for teeth and innovative oral health care, thereby strengthening RA 1082 and providing funds therefor, by Representative Ako.
To the Committee on Health.
House Bill 9433, an act providing for the modernization of the public health emergency preparedness and response capabilities, establishing for this purpose the Center for Disease Prevention and Control, and appropriating funds therefor, by Representative Ako.
To the Committee on Health.
House Bill 9434, an act granting Philippine citizenship to Athena Roberts, by Representative D. Faustino Michael Carlos.
To the Committee on Justice.
House Bill 9435, an act strengthening local sports programs to develop young athletes and appropriating funds therefor, by Representative D. Faustino Michael Carlos.
To the Committee on Health and Sports Development.
House Bill 9436, an act declaring October of every year as the National Esports Month, by Representative D. Faustino Michael Carlos.
To the Committee on Youth and Sports Development.
House Bill 9437, an act strengthening the protection and welfare of animals, repeating for this purpose RA 8485 as amended by RA 10631, otherwise known as the Animal Welfare Act of 1998, by Representative Degamo.
To the Committee on Agriculture and Food.
House Bill 9438, an act institutionalizing the establishment of 24/7 public libraries or learning hubs in all cities and clustered municipalities in the country to provide safe, sustainable, and accessible public study spaces and for other purposes, by Representative Degamo.
To the Committee on Basic Education and Culture.
House Bill 9439, an act enhancing the resiliency and adaptability of farmers to adverse weather and climate events by institutionalizing the use of crop climate calendars, equipping farmers for climate-sensitive decision-making, and providing access to localized weather and climate information, by Representative Degamo.
To the Committee on Agriculture and Food.
House Bill 9440, creating a Community Environment and Natural Resources Office in Badian, Cebu to cater to environmental and natural resources matters in the 7th District of Cebu, by Representative Calderon.
To the Committee on Natural Resources.
House Bill 9441, renaming the Lapu-Lapu City District Hospital in the city of Lapu-Lapu to Lapu-Lapu City Hospital, by Representative Chan Junard.
To the Committee on Health.
House Bill 9442, renaming the Santa Rosa Community Hospital located in Olango Island, Lapu-Lapu City to Lapu-Lapu City Hospital, Olango, by Representative Chan Junard.
To the Committee on Health.
House Bill 9443, an act strengthening open data governance and disaster resilience through the institutionalization of Open Data Philippines and for other purposes, by Representative Garcia Karen Hope.
To the Committee on Information and Communications Technology.
House Bill 9444, an act amending RA 10121, otherwise known as the Philippine Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Act of 2010, by institutionalizing a mandatory annual community-level evacuation drill and readiness program and for other purposes, by Representative Garcia Karen Hope.
To the Committee on Disaster Resilience.
House Bill 9445, an act strengthening RA 11223, otherwise known as the Universal Healthcare Act, by institutionalizing telehealth services, establishing rural telehealth centers, and providing community-based training programs for indigenous and rural health workers, by Representative Garcia Karen Hope.
To the Committee on Health.
House Bill 9446, an act modernizing the definition of rape, strengthening protection against sexual violence, and rationalizing penalties, by Representative Garcia Karen Hope.
To the Committee on Revision of Laws.
House Bill 9447, an act strengthening health and policy-based responses to violence against women and children by mandating the establishment of women and children protection units and desks nationwide, appropriating funds therefor and for other purposes, by Representative Garcia Karen Hope.
To the Committee on Health.
House Bill 9448, an act strengthening the protection of children's personal data in digital and online environments, amending for the purpose RA 10173, otherwise known as the Data Privacy Act of 2012, by Representative Garcia Karen Hope.
To the Committee on Welfare of Children.
House Bill 9449, an act regulating the malicious use of synthetic media and deepfakes, providing civil remedies and criminal penalties, therefore establishing content-neutral platform obligations, and for other purposes, by Representative Garcia Karen Hope.
To the Committee on Information and Communications Technology.
House Bill 9450, an act expanding the use of the Legal Assistance Fund and the Agarang Kalinga at Saklolo para sa mga OFWs na nangangailangan fund, establishing a global network of retained legal counsels and a 24/7 legal crisis hotline, amending for the purpose Section 26 of RA 8042, otherwise known as the Migrant Workers and Overseas Filipinos Act of 1995, as amended, and Section 13 of RA 11641, otherwise known as the Department of Migrant Workers Act, by Representative Garcia Karen Hope.
To the Committee on Overseas Workers Affairs.
House Bill 9451, an act institutionalizing an emergency medical services system creating for the purpose the National EMSS Council and appropriating funds therefore by Representative Nisay.
to the Committee on Health,
House Bill 9454, an act institutionalizing the establishment of local housing boards in all LGUs, providing for its powers and functions, amending for the purpose RA 7160, otherwise known as the Local Government Code of 1991 as amended by Representative Rama.
to the Committee on Local Government,
House Bill 9455, an act abolishing the Optical Media Board created under RA 9239, transferring its powers and functions to the Intellectual Property Office of the Philippines, and for other purposes by Representative Rama.
to the Committee on Public Information and the Committee on Government Reorganization,
House Bill 9456, an act institutionalizing and expanding the coverage of the Sustainable Livelihood Program of the DSWD, strengthening its institutional arrangements and field implementation capacity, appropriating funds therefore and for other purposes by Representative Cayton.
to the Committee on Social Services,
House Bill 9457, declaring June 15 of every year as a special non-working holiday in Bontoc, Southern Leyte, to commemorate its foundation anniversary by Representative Mercado.
to the Committee on Local Government,
House Bill 9458, mandating the construction of academic, research, and support services facilities of Southern Leyte State University, Maasin City Campus by Representative Mercado.
to the Committee on Higher and Technical Education,
House Bill 9459, an act providing for universal free internet access to all Filipino citizens nationwide, establishing the National Free Internet Program and appropriating funds therefore by Representative Mercado.
to the Committee on Information and Communications Technology,
House Bill 9460, an act simplifying documentary requirements for accessing government financial assistance and for other purposes by Representative Nisay.
to the Committee on Social Services,
House Bill 9468, an act establishing the Philippine Open Law System, providing for a free, consolidated, updated, and accessible public database of Philippine laws, rules, regulations, and jurisprudence, institutionalizing safeguards for AI-assisted legal information services, appropriating funds therefore and for other purposes by Representative Benitez Javier Miguel.
to the Committee on Justice,
Resolutions. House Resolution 1050, resolution urging the Committee on Aquaculture and Fisheries Resources to conduct an investigation in aid of legislation on the presence of commercial fishing vessels within municipal waters and its adverse impacts on the livelihood and subsistence of small-scale fisherfolk, as well as on marine ecosystems and the environment, by Representatives Elago, Tino, and Co.
to the Committee on Rules,
House Resolution 1051, resolution directing the Committee on Energy and the Committee on Aquaculture and Fisheries Resources to conduct a review and investigation in aid of legislation on the impact of offshore wind energy projects in the Bicol region on the livelihoods of small-scale fisherfolk by Representatives Elago, Tino, and Co.
to the Committee on Rules,
House Resolution 1052, a resolution congratulating and commending the Marikina footwear designers and manufacturers for their outstanding victory in the 15th International Footwear Design Competition held in Guangzhou, China by Representative Kingbo.
to the Special Committee on Creative Industries,
House Resolution 1053, resolution urging the DOH to operationalize RA 11959, otherwise known as the Regional Specialty Centers Act, through the establishment of a brain and spine specialty center in the province of Capiz and to include the necessary funding, therefore, in the General Appropriations Act by Representative Gintu.
to the Committee on Health,
House Resolution 1054, resolution congratulating and commending the 25 top-notchers from Pangasinan State University for their outstanding performance in the March 2026 licensure examination for professional teachers by Representative Coangco Mark.
to the Committee on Basic Education and Culture,
House Resolution 1055, resolution directing the House Committee on Agrarian Reform jointly with the other appropriate committees to conduct an inquiry in aid of legislation on the implementation of RA 9700, otherwise known as the Comprehensive Agrarian Reform Program Extension with Reforms, Harper, with the end in view of addressing implementation deficiencies in ensuring the completion and integrity of land distribution, strengthening tenure security, and enhancing support services for agrarian reform beneficiaries by Representative De Lima.
to the Committee on Rules,
House Resolution 1056, resolution urging the President of the Philippines through the DFA to initiate the rejoining of the Republic of the Philippines to the Rome Statute of the International Criminal Court and expressing the full support of Congress, therefore, by Representative De Lima.
to the Committee on Rules,
House Resolution 1057, resolution urging the DFA and other appropriate government agencies to take immediate steps toward the ratification and implementation of the International Convention for the Protection of All Persons from Enforced Disappearances with the end in view of strengthening human rights protection, ensuring accountability, and providing justice for victims by Representative De Lima.
to the Committee on Human Rights,
House Resolution 1058, resolution commemorating the National Daycare Workers Week and expressing profound recognition and appreciation for the dedicated service and significant contributions of daycare workers in nurturing early childhood care and development by Representative Erice.
to the Committee on Welfare of Children,
House Resolution 1059, resolution urging the Committee on Health of the House of Representatives to conduct an inquiry in aid of legislation into the implementation and effectiveness of the schistosomiasis control and elimination program of the DOH, with the end in view of further strengthening the program and eradicating the chronic parasitic disease that continues to afflict many Filipinos, particularly subsistence farmers, fisherfolk, and their children in rural communities across 28 provinces in the Visayas and Mindanao, by Representatives Libanan and Gonzales Christopher Sheen.
To the Committee on Rules.
Communication, letter dated May 18, 2026 of the BSP Back Officer 6, Office of the General Counsel and Legal Services, transmitting to the House of Representatives duly certified copies of certain BSP issuances.
To the Committee on Banks and Financial Intermediaries.
Subpoena duces tecum, pursuant to Section 153, Rule 24 of the Rules of the House of Representatives, transmitting the subpoena duces tecum issued by the Office of the Ombudsman for the following. FF-C-APR-26-0277 dated April 17, 2026. FF-C-JAN-26-0029 and FF-C-JAN-26-0067 dated April 27, 2026, and FF-C-DC-25-0333 and FF-L-JAN-26-0002 dated April 28, 2026. Pursuant to Sections 155 and 156, Rule 24 of the Rules of the House, transmitting the subpoena to Tecum dated April 16, 2026, issued by the Office of the Ombudsman, Re FF-C-JAN-26-0076. Committee reports. Committee Report 354, submitted by the Committees on Higher and Technical Education and Appropriations on House Bill 9467. Committee Report numbers 355 and 356, submitted by the Committee on Youth and Sports Development and House Resolution numbers 1060 and 1061, respectively. Committee Report numbers 357, 358, 359, 360, 361, 362, 363, 364, 365, 366, 367, 368, 369, 370, 371, 372, 373, 374, 375, 376, 377, 378, 379, 380, 381, 382, 383, 384, 385, 386, 387, 388, 389, 391, 392, 393, 394, 395, 396, 397, 398, 399, 400, 401, 402, 403, 404, 405, 406, 407, 408, 409, 410, 411, 412, 415, 416, submitted by the Committees on Tourism and Appropriations on House Bill numbers 9479, 9480, 9481, 9482, 9483, 9484, 9485, 9486, 9487, 9508, 9509, 9510, 9511, 9512, 9514, 9515, 1670, 1671, 1673, 9516, 9517, 9518, 9519, 9520, 9523, 9524, 9525, 9526, 9527, 9528, 9529, 9530, 9531, 9533, 9534, 9535, 9536, 9537, 9538, 9539, 9540, 9541, 9542, 9543, 9544, 9545, 9546, 9547, 9548, 9549, 9550, 9551, 9552, 9553, and 9554, 9568, 9569, respectively. Committee Report 390, submitted by the Committee on Higher and Technical Education and House Bill 9532. Committee Report 413, submitted by the Committee on Natural Resources and House Bill 9562. Committee Report 414, submitted by the Committee on Basic Education and Culture and House Bill 9565.
The aforementioned committee reports are all referred to the Committee on Rules. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, may we request to acknowledge the guest of Representative Shelo Crisel Lagman. They are as follow. From the LG of Baguio City, Mayor Benjamin Magalong, Councilor and Advocacy Committee Chair of League of Councilors, Elmer Datuin, City Councilor Joel Alangsab. From the Smoke-Free Task Force of Baguio City, Celia Flor Brillantes, City Health Officer, Daryl Kim Longid, Public Order and Safety Division Chief, Rufino K. Madlon, Community Enforcement Coordinator, Donabel Panes, Tobacco Control Program Coordinator, Albert M. Payan, Engineer and Chief Environmental and Sanitation Division, Joshua Daniel Rivera, Communication Management Officer. From MMDA, Francisco B. Martinez, Director, Health, Public Safety and Environmental Protection Office, Jasmine Paraiso, Project Manager, HPSEPO, Maria Salome Zoleta, Chief Environmental Management Specialist. From Pasig City, Edwin Edgar Jose Magno, Tobacco Control Nurse Coordinator, Maria Tosca Camille Villegas, Assistant Nurse Coordinator. From Pateros, Chevely Reyes, Tobacco Control Coordinator. From Sorsogon, Mark Jason Hamisola, City Councilor, and organizations. They are as follow: Philippine Smoke-Free Movement, Philippine Legislators Committee on Population and Development, Child Rights Network, Social Watch Philippines, Campaign for Tobacco-Free Kids, Health Justice Philippines, Action for Economic Reforms, Action on Smoking Health Philippines, Aktibong Kilusan tungo sa Iisang Bayan Philippines, Association of Pre-Law Students, UP Baguio, Asortej, Bukluran ng Progresibong Kabataan Kaligayahan, Duhat Youth, Explain Philippine Organization Incorporated, Junior Marketing Society, PUP Quezon City, Mandaluyong Ladies Bikers, Parents Against Vape, PETA Arts Zone, Quezon City District 2 PTA Federation, and Southeast Asia Tobacco Control Alliance. Mr. Speaker.
To the guest of Representative Lagman, welcome to the House of Representatives. Let's give him a round of applause. Thank you for your visit. Majority Leader?
Mr. Speaker, may we also recognize the guests of the Honorable Roy M. Gonzalez from the Lone District of Santa Rosa, Laguna. They are from various organizations, namely Kabataan ng Bagong Kongreso, Kilos Lagunense, Junior City Officials, Batch Echo, Libertas Debate Society, and the PUP Santa Rosa Student Council. They are James Ryan Alzona, Andre Josh Iglesia, Jean Rhea Magsayo, Kirsten Yume Sanchez, Maria Nicole Martinez, Sanchi Paulino, Precious Colin Ables, Gianna Christine Teo, Jose Gabriel Bantolo, Aisha Daphne Gamutan, Vincent Gabriel Dacera, Leo Albonita, Jamela Vien Valsorable, Rian Joyrel Lacerna, Rockford Arl de la Torre, Maria Cassandra Largo, Russell Shin Barinuevo, Abdiel Benedict Velasquez, Tristan J. Galapate, Marky Aliza Lopez, Mel Christopher Makilan, Shay J. Amore Benjamino, Thor Harold Florentino, Carlos Valenzuela, Joshua Tabafunda, and Raster John Tortoles.
To the guests of Representative Gonzalez, welcome to the House of Representatives. Thank you for your visit. Majority Leader?
Mr. Speaker, may we also recognize the guests of Honorable Ruth Magondadato Sakaluran, Representative 1st District Sultan Kudarat, the Sangguniang Kabataan Chairpersons from the Municipality of Isulan, Province of Sultan Kudarat. We have here our Sangguniang Kabataan Chairpersons, Nor Salik Abid Kalipa, Barangay Kalawag 2. Renalyn Sandigo Amigos, Barangay Lagandang, J.R. C. Poras, Barangay Lotilia, Jeboy Bulion Fuentespina, Barangay Tayugo, Shaima Silongan Sendad, Barangay Lagilayan, Apple May Legario, Leguesen, Barangay Impao, Binbads Alamada Galmak, Barangay Bual. Mr. Speaker.
To the guest of Honorable Ruth Mangudadatu Sakaluran, welcome to the House of Representatives. Majority Leader?
Mr. Speaker, may we recognize the guests of Congressman Timothy Joseph Tim E. Cayton, Lone District of Nueva Ecija, from the Bungkalot tribe, namely Daniel Pasigian, Jackie Lou Pasigian, Antonia Pasigian, Armand Pasigian, Erwin Gumiad, Raymond Pasigian, Gabriel Beso, John Pasigian, Temi Gabogen, Tomo Kidatan, Richard Aliwak, Efren Bernabe, Sandico Tiburcio, Marco Pugo, Ray Pasigian, Lucas Pasigian, Dennis Gabogen, Anteg Pasigian, Joseph Aliwak, Robinson Kaanawan, Samson Ebenga, Johnny Pasigian, Edward Gabugyen, Ernesto Diginat, Leonard Pasigian, Sammy Pasigian, Lorenzo Kidatan, Ernesto Umpatang, Rudy Umpatang, Pedro Kawad, Elson Gabugyen, Ronald Pasigian, Roberto Diginat, Lilibet Gumiad, Gideon Teves, Nomer Gumiad, Bagli Kabinangan, and Anton Aiden Pasigian.
To the guests of Representative Timothy Joseph Kaiton, welcome to the House of Representatives. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, we'd like to welcome and recognize the guests of the Honorable Sarah Jane Elago, Party List Representative of Gabriela Women's Party List, visitors from Bahaghari, Metro Manila Pride, Stonewall Philippines, BGLAD, BPO employees, gays, lesbians, and allies for genuine acceptance and democracy, drag queens, transmasculine PH, rainbow rights, and PUKSA. These are the following: Angel Teresa, Faith Christine Bengero, Maxine Santos, Rowelyn Altura, Carla Nicoco, John Edgy Maglano, Mark Daniel Bolima, Randy Goyapal, Bernardo Abraham, Clyde Altar, Corina Espadilla, Eleazar Anaya, Wilmer Mateo Jr., Rustom Lamundao, Blue Jared de Dedicatoria, Makyo Katekista, Kim Manalo, Gian Matthew Rebulado, Gabriela Shilang, TSN Drag, Valentino Maximo, and Pura Luca Vega. Mr. Speaker.
To the guests of Gabriela Women's Party List Representative Sarah Jane Elago, welcome to the House of Representatives. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, we would like to acknowledge and welcome the guests of Honorable Jose Manuel F. Alba of the 1st District of Bukidnon, officials of Bukidnon 2 Electric Cooperative Inc. or Buseco, Mr. Christopher A. Dulfo, the General Manager of Buseco, Ms. Ethel May Rubio, Mr. Ray Ann Baul, Mr. Mike Don Falarcuna, Ms. Hazel De Puerto, and Ms. Berna Casino.
To the guests of Representative Jose Manuel Alba, welcome to the House of Representatives. Thank you for your visit. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, pursuant to our rules, today being a Monday, I move to open the privilege hour.
Is there any objection? The chair hears none. The chair declares a privilege hour. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move to recognize the Honorable Laila M. De Lima of ML Party List to avail of the privilege hour.
Representative De Lima is recognized. Please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Distinguished colleagues, mga kapwa kong Pilipino, yesterday, May 31, Silence enables their abuse and suffering. Silence amplifies their hunger and poverty. Mr. Speaker, 87% of our marine fisheries are classified as overfished. The average daily catch of a municipal fisher has fallen from 5 kilos in 2010 to 4 kilos today. 1 kilo less every day for a family already eating less than they should. And yet we have reason to hope. 2 months ago, the province of Palawan became the first in the Philippines to ban all commercial fishing inside its municipal waters by ordinance. Bawal nang manghimasok ang commercial vessels sa 15 kilometers. Mr. Speaker, kung kaya ng isang lalawigan, bakit hindi kaya ng isang kongreso? I rise today, therefore, to ask this chamber to enact further legislation that recognizes our fisher folk as rights holders, not as recipients of the state's generosity, but as citizens to whom it owes a duty. What we ask from this Congress rests on 3 principles. First, the spaces our fisher folk depend on their municipal waters and the coastal lands where they have lived for generations must remain a protected space without exception, without negotiation. Hindi dapat payagang manghuli ng isda ang malalaking bangka sa municipal waters. Second, the fisheries laws already in place must be enforced consistently by our duty bearers with integrity at every level, not negotiated, not delayed, not studied further, enforced. Third, our fisher folk must be treated as partners in shaping government policy, not mere recipients of it. Buhay ng mga mangingisda natin ang nakasalalay dito. Nararapat na kinukonsulta sila sa mga polisiya at programang sila ang primaryong benepisyaryo o primaryong mag-aagrabyado. This is what the Constitution requires of it when it speaks of social justice. Ang batas ay hindi handog sa mangingisda sa kanilang araw. Ito po ay utang ng Republika na matagal nang dapat bayaran. Mr. Speaker, distinguished colleagues, the measure of justice in this republic is not how loudly we praise the poor on a day like today. It is whether the law stands with them on every other day of the year, when the boat goes out before dawn, when the net comes back lighter. Hindi limos ang hinihingi ng ating mga mangingisda. Katarungan po ang hinihingi nila. Kakabit ng katarungan ito ang kanilang kabuhayan, karapatan, kinabukasan. For the millions who feed this nation and who on National Fisherfolk Day still struggle to feed themselves, let this Congress stand with them. Maraming salamat po, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move to refer the speech of the Honorable Laila De Lima to the Committee on Rules for its appropriate action.
Is there any objection? Chair hears none. The privileged speech of Honorable De Lima is referred to the Committee on Rules. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move to recognize Representative Nelson Legacion from the 3rd District of Camarines Sur for his privileged speech.
Representative Nelson Legacion is recognized. Please proceed.
Mr. Speaker, my dear colleagues, good afternoon. I rise today on a matter of personal and professional privilege. I rise to speak about a personal commitment to ensure that the lessons I learned while wading through the flooded streets of Naga are translated into meaningful legislative action, not only for the 3rd District and the entire province of Camarines Sur, but also for the entire country. Before serving as the representative of the 3rd District of Camarines Sur, I served as the City Mayor of Naga for 2 terms, from 2019 to 2025. I therefore know the sleepless nights of a local chief executive when typhoons come, more so when the rain does not stop, when areas start flooding. Alam naman nating lahat na parte ng klima sa Pilipinas ang tag-ulan mula Hunyo hanggang Hulyo at minsan nga ay umaabot pa hanggang Setyembre o Oktubre. Tuwing papasok ang mga buwang ito, parati tayong nakaalerto. However, the truth is the real work of flood control should be happening long before the first drop of rain falls. I have always been a firm believer that clean, unobstructed waterways are our best defense. Simple lang ang logic natin. Kung walang nakabara sa mga sapa at ilog, ang tubig ay may madadaluyan. This is not just a policy talking point for me, it is a lesson I carried with me from the ground up. In 2021, during my time as mayor and after 3 successive typhoons hit us during the last quarter of 2020, we launched a clearing operation of our waterways in Naga, including what we call as Sagup Creek. At that time, we were only able to make a real dent because we borrowed an amphibious excavator from the Department of Public Works and Highways. Nakita namin ang resulta. Bumilis ang daloy ng tubig at gumaan ang pakiramdam ng mga Nagueño dahil nabawasan ang pagbaha sa mga critical na lugar. Pero ito ang masakit na katotohanan na kinakaharap ng bawat local government unit. In just 2 short years, balik sa dati. Bumalik ang water lilies, tumubo ulit ang mga ligaw na damo, at ang creek na pinaghirapan nating linisin ay barado na naman. It taught me that flood mitigation is not a one-time, big-time project. It requires periodic, consistent maintenance. Let me repeat that for emphasis. Flood mitigation is not a one-time, big-time project. It requires periodic, consistent maintenance. This concern is more relevant now than ever. We have seen significant momentum recently, particularly with the high-level inspection conducted last February by President Ferdinand Bongbong Marcos Jr. and DPWH Secretary Vince Dizon, alongside Naga City Mayor Lenny Robredo. This collaborative effort underscored the urgency of Uplan Kontra Baha, a multi-agency initiative focused on desilting and drainage rehabilitation to fortify our communities against future calamities. At present, the OKB operations are in full swing across Naga, targeting a number of critical waterways and drainage systems to ensure they are clear before the peak of the typhoon season. This comprehensive desilting effort is a massive undertaking, covering the very veins of our city's water management system. I understand that there are other areas in the country, such as Metro Manila, Bacolod City, Metro Cebu, Iligan City, to name a few, where Oplan kontra Baha, upon the instruction of President Bongbong Marcos Jr., is being implemented by DPWH Secretary Vince Dizon and USEC Charles Kalima Jr. as Task Force Commander. While these national-level projects and high-level interventions provide the macro solutions we need, the success of these initiatives still relies heavily on the daily maintenance of our local arteries. Let us be clear. This is not just about property damage or stalled traffic. Clogged waterways are a public health ticking time bomb. Kapag ang tubig ay hindi na umaagos, nagiging stagnant ito. Ang perfect breeding ground para sa mga lamok na may dalang sakit tulad ng dengue at Zika. Diyan din nagmumula ang masangsang na amoy at mga sakit sa balat na dumadapo sa ating mga kababayan, lalo na sa mga bata. When these waterways overflow, we face the threat of leptospirosis. Hindi lang po baha ang kalaban natin dito, kalusugan at buhay din ng ating pamilya at mga mamamayan ang nakataya. The problem, however, is that our LGUs, local government units, are often left helpless. Our mayors know exactly which creeks are choked and which esteros need dredging. Alam nila ang solusyon, pero wala silang sapat na gamit. We cannot keep relying on a borrowing system with the Department of Public Works and Highways. Sa totoo lang, ang hirap pumila. Minsan, kung kailan baha na at lubog na ang mga barangay, doon pa lang darating ang makinarya. Pero, kadalasan, lampas na ang 1 o 2 taon, hindi pa rin napagbibigyan ang pakiusap na makahiram ng clearing o dredging tools dahil limitado rin naman ang equipment ng DPWH. We need to stop this cycle. We need to empower our local government units to be self-reliant or to do their job on their own. We should help not only Naga City, Metro Manila, Bacolod City, Metro Cebu, and Iligan City. In my district, other LGUs like the municipalities of Calabanga, Bombon, Magarao, Canaaman, Camaligan, Pili, and Ocampo need also help. I am sure that other LGUs in other parts of the country need also help. However, most of our LGUs do not have the financial capacity to acquire the necessary equipment. Therefore, I am proposing that we provide the necessary intervention to help our LGUs purchase their own specialized equipment. Yung mga sariling amphibious excavators at dredging tools, I therefore strongly urge the leadership of this legislature and the executive body to favorably consider the following. First, una po, that we include amphibious excavators and dredging tools as a priority expenditure under the Local Government Support Fund. Or, second, which I prefer, that we provide a separate funding for this purpose, if not immediately, for the next and succeeding budget cycles. This fund should serve as a direct lifeline for our local leaders to implement immediate and recurring solutions to their flooding woes. Through this, we are not just giving our LGU officials machines, we are arming them and we are giving them the capacity to protect their own respective communities on their own time. Huwag na nating hintayin na muling lumubog ang ating mga komunidad o magkaroon ng outbreak ng sakit bago po tayo kumilos. Maraming salamat, Mr. Speaker. Diyos mabalos.
Thank you very much. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move to refer the speech of the Honorable Legacion to the Committee on Rules for its appropriate
Is
action.
there any objection? The chair hears none. The privileged speech of Honorable Legacion is hereby referred to the Committee on Rules. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, may we welcome and recognize the guests of Representative Filimon Espares of Co-op NATCO Party List and Representative Antonio Legarda of the Lone District of Antique. They are Brittany Angel Rubino, Binibining Pilipinas, Province of Antique, and Mr. Flord Calawag.
To the guests of Honorable Filimon Espares and Honorable Antonio Legarda, welcome to the House of Representatives. Thank you for your visit. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move to recognize the Honorable Shelo Crisel Lagman of the 1st District of Albay to avail of the privilege R.
Honorable Chelo Crisel Lagman is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Honorable Speaker, distinguished colleagues, I rise today not only as a legislator, but also as a former practicing health professional, and as someone who has seen firsthand how preventable diseases continue to take root and proliferate in our communities. Today, June 1, we celebrate the beginning of the national observance of No Smoking Month. And so I think this is the best time to remind all of us about the ill effects of smoking. We are facing today a worsening public health crisis assaulting our homes, our schools, our communities, and unconscionably cutting short the lives of our young people. Tobacco use continues to claim more than 8 million lives globally every year, including over 1.3 million non-smokers exposed to secondary hand smoke. In the Philippines, the top 5 causes of death: ischemic heart diseases, neoplasms, cancer is a neoplasm, cerebrovascular diseases, including strokes and aneurysms, pneumonia, and diabetes mellitus are also among the top 10 tobacco-related diseases. And every year, tobacco kills around 112,000 Filipinos. Beyond the health risks, we must also take into account the associated social cost. Tobacco-related diseases do not only take lives, they disrupt families. They leave spouses forcibly charged with caring for the sick, children witnessing and suffering from prolonged illnesses, and in too many cases, families grieving losses that could have been prevented. These are avoidable tragedies that needlessly cascade across generations. We all know the harm of tobacco and vape use does not end with the smoker. This is reflected in the latest data from the Global Adult Tobacco Survey 2021 and the Global Youth Tobacco Survey 2019. Among adults, around 2.5 million Filipinos are exposed to tobacco smoke in enclosed workplaces, while 4.2 million adults reported exposure in public transportation. Among the youth, 41.7% reported exposure to tobacco smoke inside enclosed public places. Clearly, exposure to secondhand smoke remains a daily reality for millions of Filipinos. It is not a matter of choice for those exposed. It is imposed and inflicted upon them in our barangays, our schools, parks, and even inside our homes. Worse, exposure to secondhand smoke starts early. A 2023 survey by the Food and Nutrition Research Institute disclosed 1 million new smokers aged 10 to 19. Sometimes the most powerful reminders come from children themselves. I have shared this quote before, but it bears reiterating. My 12-year-old niece, Maliha, said this: ang usok ng sigarilyo ay hindi lamang nakakasama sa kalusugan ng naninigarilyo, kung hindi pati na rin sa mga taong nakapaligid, lalo na sa mga batang mas sensitibo ang baga. Ito rin ay isang masamang halimbawa sa mga batang nakakakita dahil maaari nitong gayahin at isipin na isa itong normal na gawain. Mr. Speaker, fellow policymakers, that is not a policy expert speaking. That is a child who already understands what is at stake. Hindi lang sila nalalantad sa panganib, natututo rin sila kung ano ang nakikita nila. And when harmful behavior becomes normalized, prevention becomes even more difficult. Our nation ably responds to visible threats, whether during a pandemic, disasters, or in times of conflict. Yet, every year, tobacco-related diseases claim even more lives, quietly, without the same urgency or attention. Ironically, this is a crisis we have long known how to prevent. The challenges are many, but they are not insurmountable. Glimmers of hope exist across the country. Several local government units have already demonstrated that strong smoke-free and vape-free policies do work. That when there is political will, strict and full and policy enforcement, and community participation, healthier and safer environments are achievable. Baguio City, a recipient of the World No Tobacco Day Award 2026 by the World Health Organization, understood early on that legislation hardly matters without consistent implementation. Thus, its leadership ensured visible, sustained, and compassionate enforcement through a multi-agency smoke-free task force coupled with cessation support and counseling for those who want to quit. Through its journey towards a tobacco-free generation, Balanga City aligned its smoke-free policies with its goal of becoming a smart university town by 2030, recognizing that a healthy environment is essential to learning and development. In Tabaco City, where I previously served as mayor, we achieved Hall of Fame status in the Department of Health's Red Orchid Awards in 2019 after receiving the award for 3 consecutive years, demonstrating the impact of sustained and consistent tobacco control efforts. Cognizant of the interrelatedness of various aspects of health, Tabaco City's smoke-free programs are consistently complemented and mutually reinforced by its other health initiatives, such as those on drug use prevention and community-based mental health care. An earlier World No Tobacco Day awardee in 2019 Iloilo City treated tobacco control not as a one-time policy, but as a continuing public health agenda that must adapt to emerging challenges, including vaping and changing youth behavior. In Davao City, what stands out is the strength of public compliance with a whole-of-community approach, transforming smoke-free governance into a shared responsibility. Butuan City proactively included electronic smoking devices when most local policies still focused on conventional cigarettes and embedded smoking restrictions and safeguards to protect children through relevant ordinances like its Children's Code. My dear friends and colleagues, in Baguio City, smoke-free governance is not just a policy, it is a culture. In Balanga City, we see long-term vision at work. In Tabaco City, I witnessed firsthand how holistic approach to health, hand in hand with steadfast commitment and effective implementation, can institutionalize public health gains. In Iloilo City, the lesson is the imperative of education and sustainability. Davo's experience illustrates how collaborative action and accountability can shape social behavior. Butuan City shows us that leadership requires innovation and being ahead of the curve. Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, these cities may differ in context, but their success is built on the same foundations: strong leadership, consistent enforcement, public education, community participation, protection of children and youth, and the recognition that tobacco use and vaping are not merely individual choices, but public health and development issues that demand urgent action. The challenge is now clear. Paano natin masisiguro na hindi lamang iilang lungsod, kundi ang bawat komunidad sa buong bansa ay may parehong antas ng proteksyon? Out of 1,715 LGUs, this includes the provinces, municipalities, and cities, only a relatively small number have comprehensive smoke-free and vape-free ordinances. An even smaller number have these ordinances effectively enforced. This is why we must move beyond the local successes and begin nationalizing these gains. There is a pressing need for a comprehensive law to ensure that every Filipino, regardless of the location, breathes clean and healthy air. In the Philippines, tobacco-related diseases cost an estimated 210 billion pesos annually in healthcare and productivity losses. And yet, public health and governance studies from the Health Justice and the UP National College of Public Administration and Governance show that even modest annual investments of at least 1% of the annual local health budget for local tobacco and vape control programs can significantly reduce healthcare costs and improve public health outcomes. Just imagine the collective impact if every city and municipality in the country has the capacity to implement strong smoke-free and vape-free policies. Imagine communities where children grow up without constant exposure to tobacco and vape use, where public spaces are genuinely smoke-free and vape-free, where workers are healthier and more productive, and where families are spared from preventable illnesses, catastrophic healthcare expenses, and unnecessary and preventable deaths. Mr. Speaker, distinguished colleagues, we are here not only as lawmakers, but as stewards of the future. The question before us is both simple and profound. Ano ang kinabukasan na nais natin para sa ating mga anak at sa susunod na salinglahi? Let us choose prevention over regret. Let us work together to ensure a smoke-free and vape-free environment where the next generations breathe clean air, live healthier lives, and fulfill hopes, achieve dreams, and reach their fullest potentials. And I challenge the House of Representatives to start this action. Diyos Mabalos, maray na hapon po sa Gabos.
Thank you very much. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move to refer the speech of the Honorable Shelo Crisel Lagman to the Committee on Rules for its appropriate action.
Is there any objection? Chair hears none. The privileged speech of Honorable Lagman is hereby referred to the Committee on Rules. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move to recognize Honorable Romeo S. Momo of the 1st District of Surigao del Sur to avail of the privilege hour.
Representative Romeo Momo is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, distinguished colleague, I rise today on a matter of urgent national concern, a matter that strikes at the very core of public safety, governance, and accountability. Last May 24, our nation witnessed a heartbreaking tragedy in Angeles City, Pampanga, where a building still under construction collapsed in the dead of night. Dozens of our fellow Filipinos, mostly construction workers, were buried beneath concrete and steel. Some were rescued, others tragically did not make it. 12 to be specific, and 8 individuals still missing. Also, a Malaysian citizen who was in the adjacent building perished. Mr. Speaker, this is not merely an accident. This is a symptom of a deeper systemic failure. Initial report reveals disturbing details. The building was approved for 9 floors, yet a 10th floor with a swimming pool was reportedly being constructed. Workers were sleeping inside the structures, raising questions about safety compliance. The collapse occurred without a major earthquake, suggesting possible structural or regulatory lapses. This tragedy exposes a painful truth that our current building regulatory framework is outdated, fragmented, and weakly enforced. Mr. Speaker, this is precisely why House Bill number 6615, or the proposed new Philippine Building Act, is not just timely, it is necessary. We passed this measure last December 16, 2025, and received by the Senate on the following day. This measure modernizes our outdated building laws and introduces a comprehensive regulatory framework, stronger engineering and safety standards, and a whole-of-government approach to disaster resilience. But more importantly, Mr. Speaker, it introduces accountability. Allow me to highlight Section 62 of House Bill number 6615. This provision is crucial. Section 62 clearly defines prohibited acts, including unauthorized deviations from approved plans, construction beyond permitted specifications, non-compliance with the structural and safety standards, and the violations of permits and regulatory requirements. Mr. Speaker, had this provision been fully enforced, would this tragedy have happened? Section 62 sends a strong message that no one is above building laws. No shortcut is worth human life, and negligence will have consequences. The Angeles City collapse reveals a dangerous reality that permits can be bypassed, inspection can be ignored, and violation go unchecked. This is not just a construction issue. This is a governance issue. House Bill number 6615, through provisions like Section 62, ensures that violators are clearly identified, liability is established, and enforcement is strengthened. Mr. Speaker, let us not forget, those buried in the rubble were not statistics. They were Filipino construction workers, fathers, brothers, sons, men who labored day and night to build our cities, roads, bridges, and school buildings. They trusted the system, and the system failed them. We owe them more than sympathy. We owe them justice through legislation and swift action. In the meantime, as an advocate of safe, strong, and efficient infrastructure, and chairperson of the House Committee on Public Works and Highways, I call on the Department of Public Works and Highways, the Angeles City Local Government, the Department of Labor and Employment, and all regulatory bodies to ensure a full, speedy, and transparent investigation and hold those responsible for this tragedy accountable under existing laws. Let these violators, private or public individuals, face the full force of the law. This, Mr. Speaker, is without prejudice to any investigation in aid of legislation that would possibly be conducted by this House of the People. The Angeles City tragedy is not an isolated case. It reflects broader national issues, such as weak enforcement of building permits, unauthorized structural modification, possible negligence or non-compliance by developers, and the lack of real-time monitoring during construction. We cannot continue to normalize disasters that are preventable. Mr. Speaker, this is not just about buildings. This is about trust in our institution, safety of our people, and integrity of our infrastructure projects. The new Philippine Building Act is a lifeline for future generations. Let this tragedy in Angeles City be the last of its kind. Let us act decisively, urgently, and responsibly. Let this proposed Philippine Building Act be a law so that never again will Filipinos have to dig through the rubble and to find the cause of our inaction. Daghang kayong salamat, Mr. Speaker, Your Honor.
Daghang salamat, Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move to refer the speech of the Honorable Momo to the Committee on Rules for its appropriate action.
Is there any objection? The chair hears none. The privileged speech of Representative Momo is hereby referred to the Committee on Rules. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move to recognize the gentleman from Party List Ako Bicol, Representative Alfredo A. Garbin Jr. To avail of the privilege hour.
Representative Garbin is recognized.
Thank you. Mr. Speaker, distinguished colleagues, my fellow servants of our beloved country, there comes a moment in the life of every public servant when silence becomes complicity and when speaking out becomes an act of duty rather than ambition. Today, I speak not as a partisan, not as a member of any political camp, not as an ally of adversary of any personality in this chamber or beyond it. Today, I speak as a Filipino. At this moment, I speak for Filipinos who no longer have the luxury of waiting for us to finish our political bickering. Mr. Speaker, look around us. Every morning, our nation awakens not to hope, but to headlines. Every evening, our people go to sleep weighed down not by the day's honest labor, but by the exhausting noise of endless political conflict. Investigations stack upon investigations, impeachment complaints chasing impeachment complaints, accusations volleyed across institutions, realignments, betrayals, alliances, formed at dawn and broken by dusk. Gunfire inside the very halls meant to embody our democracy. Our courts dragged into political theater. Our agencies weaponized. Our discourse poisoned. And while all of this consumes our airwaves, our headlines, and our attention somewhere in Metro Manila is a matter dividing 1 cup of rice among 4 children. Somewhere in Bicol, a farmer staring at his fields, wondering if the next typhoon will be finished, what inflation has already begun. Somewhere in Mindanao, a fisherman returns to shore with an empty net and a heavier heart. Somewhere in Visayas, a jeepney driver counts his coins and realizes he has earned less than the price of the fuel he burned. Somewhere in the country, a young graduate sends out 12 resumes and receives her 12 silence or rejection. This, Mr. Speaker, this is the Philippines that politics has forgotten. We have become a nation drunk on controversy and starving for competence. We have mastered the art of political warfare while losing the science of economic survival. We have perfected choreography of outrage while forgetting the discipline of governance. And the tragic irony is this: while we fight over power, the very people who give us that power are quietly losing the power to live with dignity. Mr. Speaker, the peso weakens, but our political egos grow stronger. The price of rice climbs, but so does the volume of our partisans shouting. Electricity rates surge, but the highest lights in this country remain pointed at political scandal rather than the solutions. Our economy shows signs of stagflation, that dangerous illness where prices rise while growth stalls. And yet, the diagnosis of our leaders seem most concerned with who shall fall next, not how our people shall rise. I ask this august chamber, with all the respect and sincerity I can summon, when did we forget that hunger does not check party affiliation? When did we forget that unemployment does not ask whether you are administration or opposition? When did we forget that the mother boiling water with salt to quiet her children's hunger does not care with faction wins tomorrow's news cycle? She only cares whether tomorrow there will be food. Mr. Speaker, the Filipino is not asking us to agree on everything. The Filipino is simply asking us to agree on them. To agree that their suffering is real. To agree that their patience is not infinite. To agree that their dignity is not negotiable. To agree that beneath every political color we wear, there beats the same brown heart, under the same sun, same archipelago, bearing the same Filipino. And so today, I make an appeal not to a party, not to a bloc, not to a personality, but to every Filipino in this hall and beyond it. Let us put down our political weapons long enough to pick up our economic tools. Let us redirect this nation's enormous energy towards something that actually feeds a family, employs a worker, educates a child, and heals a sick mother. Let us focus, Mr. Speaker, on what matters. On agriculture, because no nation has ever risen in imported rice and borrowed dignity. We must rebuild our farms, modernize our irrigation, support our farmers and fisherfolk, and restore food security as a matter of national survival, not seasonal politics. On energy, because we cannot industrialize a country whose electricity is among the most expensive in Asia. Every kilowatt hour we fail to reform is a job we fail to create. On jobs, because dignity begins with employment. And a nation that cannot employ its own people will forever be a nation that exports its own children. On micro, small and medium enterprises, because the sari-sari store, the karanderia, the family-owned shop, the online seller, tricycle operator, these are not statistics. They are the true engine of our economy, and they are gasping for breath. On tourism, because we are blessed with islands the world dreams of visiting. And we must turn that beauty into livelihood for our coastal communities, our cultural workers, our local artisans. Or investment, because no investor places capital in chaos. Stability is the cheapest incentive we can offer, and yet it is the one we squander most. On infrastructure, because roads, ports, bridges, and digital networks are not luxuries. They are the arteries through which economic life must flow. On education and technology, because the Filipino of tomorrow will not compete with bolos and bollards, but with code, data, science, and skill. On healthcare, because a sick nation cannot work and a broken Filipino cannot build. On housing, transport, on water and social protection, on every quiet and glamorous frontier of governance that does not trend on social media, but actually changes lives. Mr. Speaker, I am not naive. I know politics will not disappear, and I know accountability must continue. I know corruption must be confronted wherever it hides. And I know that Congress has both the duty and the right to investigate, to legislate, and to check other branches of government. These functions are sacred, and I will defend them. But there is a difference between accountability and obsession. There's a difference between vigilance and vendetta. And there's a difference between cleansing a republic and consuming it. And right now, I fear we are crossing that line. Not because any one person willed it, but because all of us together, we have allowed the political to eclipse the practical. Let me be clear. When budgets are weaponized, communities lose services. When institutions are dragged into partisan crossfire, investors lose confidence. And when confidence is lost, Mr. Speaker, it is not the politician who suffers, but the porter in the pier, the sales lady in the mall, the call center agent on the graveyard ship, the OFW counting the years until she can come home. They are the ones who pay the bill for our political indulgences. And so I say, my colleagues, across every aisle, every party, every camp, and every loyalty, let history not remember this Congress as the one that perfected political combat while peso crumbled. Let it not be written that we were eloquent in attack and silent on the economy. Let it not be said that we mastered the microphone but forgot the marketplace. Let it be instead said that in a moment of national turbulence, Filipinos in this chamber remembered that they were Filipinos first. Because at the end of every term, the titles we hold today will return to the people who lent them to us. The seats we occupied will be inherited by others. These speeches we give will fade. The headlines will yellow. But what will remain, what truly remain, is whether the Filipino family lived better, ate better, worked better, and hoped better because we were here. Mr. Speaker, we are one people, one archipelago, one destiny. We have survived colonizers, dictators, calamities, pandemics, and crises that would have broken lesser nations. We will survive this too. But only if we remember that Filipino does not need us to fight for them in the arena of politics, nearly as much as they need us to fight for them in the arena of life. So let us rise not against each other, but alongside each other. Let us debate, but let us also deliver. Let us disagree, but let us never forget who we serve. Let us go home tonight not asking who won today's political round, but asking instead, what did I do that will reach the kitchen of a Filipino family tomorrow? That, Mr. Speaker, is the only scoreboard that matters. May God bless the Filipino worker, the Filipino farmer, the Filipino mother, the Filipino child, the Filipino dreamer, and through them, may God bless the Republic of the Philippines. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Jos Mabalos.
Thank you very much. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move to refer the speech of the Honorable Garbin to the Committee on Rules for its appropriate action.
Is there any objection? The chair hears none. The privileged speech of Honorable Garbin is hereby referred to the Committee on Rules. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move to recognize the lady from Gabriela Party List, Representative Sarah Jane Ilago, for her and to avail the privilege hour.
Representative Sarah Jane Ilago is recognized. Please proceed.
Maraming salamat, Mr. Speaker. Magandang hapon sa lahat at isang mapagpalayang pagbati ng buwan ng Pride ngayong Hunyo. This June marks the commemoration of the LGBTQIA+ Pride Month, the annual celebration, the annual protest, the annual observance of the importance of fighting for our equal rights, for the civil rights to be free from any form of discrimination, to work, study, and live equally. One of the first ever Pride demonstrations in the Philippines and in Asia was Stonewall Manila, held on June 26, 1994, which is the 25th anniversary of the riots at Stonewall Inn, New York. There were around 50 demonstrators who marched at Quezon City Memorial Circle, calling to end gender-based discrimination and to likewise junk the value-added tax, which was recently passed then. Ngayon ho, nasa 32 ng taon mula ng demonstrasyon na ito, mataas pa rin ang presyo ng mga bilihin at marami pa rin pinapasan ang napakabigat na value-added tax. Mula noong taon na yon, 1994, nung bago pa lang ito, nasa 10%, ngayon ay tumaas na ito ng 12%. Nakita natin kung gaanong ramdam na ramdam ng ating mga kababayan, ng bawat Pilipino, ang bigat ng krisis na pang-ekonomiya, na higit na naghihirap ang ating mga kababayan dahil sa kawalan ng sapat na proteksyon sa paggawa at ang talamak na diskriminasyon sa mga opisina at pagawaan. Ngunit napatunayan, hindi lang sa kasalukuyan, kundi sa ating mahabang kasaysayan na hindi kailanman nagiging hiwalay ang laban para sa pagkakapantay-pantay at ang pangkalahatang laban ng mamamayan, para sa pantay na karapatan, para sa nakabubuhay na sahod, para sa pagpapababa ng presyo ng bilihin, para sa pantay na akses sa mga serbisyong panlipunan, para sa pantay na akses sa edukasyon, sa kalusugan, sa pabahay, at iba pang kinakailangan para sa buhay na tunay na malaya at may dignidad. At ngayon, sa matinding krisis na kinakaharap ng ating mga kababayan, matindi rin ang epekto nito sa ating mga kababayan na LGBTQIA+ mula sa pagtaas hindi lang ng presyo ng pagkain, kundi ng pagtataas din ng presyo at singil sa kuryente, tubig. Lahat ito ay dahil sa grabing pagtaas ng presyo ng langis, sa huling mga buwan at ang nabanggit natin na dambuhala na 12% value-added tax na patuloy na pinapasan at ang mga panukalang batas dito mismo sa House of Representatives ay hindi pa rin natin kabuang natatalakay. Ayon sa isang pag-aaral mula sa University of the Philippines noong 2025, LGBTQIA+ Filipinos are twice more likely to be underemployed and are thrice more likely to be in vulnerable employment. Hindi po yan maliit na bagay, Mr. Speaker. Ibig sabihin nito ay marami sa ating mga kababayan na LGBT ay walang sapat na trabaho at kita sa pang-araw-araw na buhay. At higit pang mas vulnerable sa mga price shocks. Sa totoo lang, hindi lang po sila, kundi kalakhan at marami tayong mga kababayan ang pareho ang nararanasan. Nagbibigay po ito sa atin ng hamon para bigyan talaga ng prioridad ang mga panukala para sa disenteng trabaho, para sa pagpapayabong ng ating lokal na agrikultura at industriya, para lumikha ng trabaho dito mismo sa Pilipinas. At ang pagbibigay ng prioridad sa pagkakaroon ng nakabubuhay na sahod, 1,200 na living wage. Malaking bagay rin ho sa pagtitiyak ng karapatan sa kalusugan para sa ating mga kababayan ang access sa abot kaya at gender-sensitive na serbisyong pangkalusugan. We have had some meaningful progress in expanding healthcare access to queer couples of diverse experiences and arrangements. The right to care card has been adopted in Quezon City, San Juan City, Iloilo, and now Mandaluyong City and Dasmariñas City. Ang right to care card ay isang napakahalagang dokumento upang makapili ang isang individual kung sino ang maaaring maging kanilang healthcare proxy kahit hindi sila kasal o kahit hindi sila magkamag-anak. At para sa mga iba't ibang partnership, mahalaga ito upang tiyakin na kinikilala ang kanilang mga karapatan na alagaan ang kanilang mga mahal sa buhay habang may medical emergency. Ngunit mayroon pa ring mga malalaking balakid, Mr. Speaker, sa mismong sistema ng pangkalusugan para sa ating mga kababayan. Those who belong to gender and sexual minorities continue to deal with the denial of health services, harassment, misgendering of transgender and non-binary individuals, among others. Gender-diverse Filipinos are therefore more likely to postpone or delay seeking healthcare due to these systemic roadblocks. Ito po ay isang bagay na muli nararanasan din po ng kalakhan ng ating mga kababayang Pilipino. Due to the inaccessibility of healthcare and professional guidance available in the country, transgender Filipinos in particular are also more likely to self-medicate the hormone therapy necessary for them to relieve their gender dysphoria or the feeling of wrongness intrinsic to the self-associated with one's gender assigned at birth. Sa mga eskwelahan naman, Mr. Speaker, nananatili ang matinding diskriminasyon sa mga kabataan na dagdag na nagpapahirap sa kanilang mga opportunities na makamit ang kanilang karapatan sa edukasyon. Noong huling taon lamang, may isang estudyante ang nakaranas ng matinding bullying at discrimination sa kanyang pag-aaral dahil sa kanyang gender expression. Siya po ay na-diagnose ng depression at dahil dito at ng mga dumagdag pa na personal na problema, nawalan siya ng 2 scholarship. Kung mas matibay lang sana, at ito nga ay hindi dapat sana, kundi nararapat na matiyak para sa bawat estudyante sa buong bansa na maging malaya sa anumang forma ng gender-based discrimination. Malamang ho, wala ng mga estudyante ang makakaranas pa ng ganito, mawala ng scholarship, magkaroon ng dagdag hirap sa pagpapatuloy ng kanyang pag-aaral, at atin siyang masusuportahan, matutulungan na makamit ang karapatan sa edukasyon. Marami rin mga kabataang LGBTQIA+ ang napapalaya sa kanilang mga tahanan o hindi nakakapagtapos ng pag-aaral dahil sa kawalan ng ligtas na espasyo. Ito ay pinapatindi ng sistemang patriarkal at feudal na pang-aapi sa kanila, lalong-lalo na sa marami pang lugar kung saan napakalupit ng stigma at mas mailap ang access sa hustisya. Noong huling taon lamang, Mr. Speaker, nakakapanlumo, nakakagalit ang dami ng kaso ng gender-based violence kung saan targeted ang ating mga kababayan. At ang pinakamalala dito, ang dumarami ring kaso ng transfemicide o ang pagpatay sa mga trans women kung saan ang nagiging motibo at pinagmumulan ay transphobia at misogyny. Kabilang dito si Kiera Apostol, isang 18 years old na estudyante, at si Ali Makalintal, isang journalist at human rights defender. Hindi lang sila, Mr. Speaker, kundi marami pa. Ang mga pinalayas, sinaktan, mula noon hanggang ngayon, na nananawagan pa rin ng hustisya at kailangan nating iparinig at ipakita na kasama tayo sa laban sa pagkamit ng hustisya. Mr. Speaker, as we advocate for women's rights, we must also advocate for all women, including queer women and trans women. Dapat bahagi sa sistema, halimbawa, sa pagpapatupad natin ng anti-violence against women and their children, at iba pang mga kaugnay na batas para sa proteksyon ng mga kababaihan, dapat kasama sa response systems, mechanisms natin ng reporting, at pagtitiyak ng legal assistance, ang sensitivity measures na tiyakin na gender inclusive, gender affirmative ang ating mga mekanismo para tulungan ang mga biktima at survivors ng abuso. For more than 30 years now, the LGBTQIA+ community in this country has been tirelessly fighting for their right to live and exist freely and equally, despite every roadblock in front of them. We at this plenary must remember our duty to serve the people of this nation. Ang mga kababayan natin ay kapareho natin na kumakayod, nagsusumikap sa araw-araw para makakain, mag-aral, magtrabaho, mabuhay ng maayos at may dignidad. Ngunit, nakikita natin na sa iba't ibang espasyo, sa eskwelahan, sa lugar ng trabaho, sa mundo ng paggawa, maski ho sa ating mga serbisyong panlipunan, marami pa rin ang napagkakaitan ng kanilang pantay na karapatan. This is why, Mr. Speaker, we must remember that the spirit of Stonewall, which was a riot against police brutality and state neglect, is significant to remember that Pride Month, indeed, is a month of protest. Ito po ay protesta para tiyakin na nagpapatuloy ang laban para sa pantay na karapatan at laban para sa hustisya. Here in the Philippines, that spirit lives on in every queer person who joins workers' picket lines, in every trans person who stands with farmers for genuine land reform, and in every member of the community who fights for the rights of ordinary Filipinos. Ang laban po na ito ay hindi lang laban ng LGBTQIA+. Ito ay laban ng bawat Pilipino para sa pantay na karapatan, para sa pantay na proteksyon, para maging malaya sa anumang forma ng abuso at diskriminasyon. The spirit of pride is not about elevating any one person over another unfairly. Rather, pride is a protest against systemic abuse and injustice, one that we must all recognize. Kaya nananawagan po tayo sa ating mga kasamahan sa bulwagang ito. Huwag nating hayaang lumipas ang isa pang taon na puro lamang tayong pagbati ng Happy Pride. Happy naman po talaga dahil nakita natin ang laki ng iba't ibang pagtitipon para sabihin na tayo ay hindi natutulog sa paglaban para sa pantay na karapatan. Ngunit hindi lang dapat happy, kundi dapat merong honor pagdating sa pagbibigay natin ng commitment na bibigyan talaga natin ng prioridad. No? Ang pagtalakay, hindi lang ng mga measures, ng mga hakbang na may kinalaman sa paglaban sa diskriminasyon o para sa pantay na karapatan, para sa katarungang panlipunan. Hindi lang maisabatas ang mga ito, kundi matiyak natin na sa bawat espasyo, kahit saan, kahit kailan, malaya sa anumang forma ng abuso at diskriminasyon ang bawat isang Pilipino. Tayo ay tumitindig sa ngalan ng Gabriela Women's Party, kasama ang sektor, ang LGBTQIA+ community, ipaglaban natin ang isang lipunang walang mapang-api at walang inaapi. Isulong natin ang demokrasya kung saan may tunay na pagkilala sa karapatan ng lahat, sa pantay na karapatan ng lahat, anuman ang kasarian. Happy Pride with the commitment to really honor our pledge to fight for equal rights and equal protection. Maraming salamat, Mr. Speaker. Mabuhay at muli isang palaban na Pride Month sa lahat.
Thank you very much. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move to refer the speech of the Honorable Sarah Jane Elago to the Committee on Rules for its appropriate action.
Is there any objection? Chair hears none. The privileged speech of Honorable Sarah Elago is hereby referred to the Committee on Rules. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move to extend the privilege hour for another 60 minutes to allow other members who registered from the Committee on Rules to avail of the privilege hour.
Is there any objection? Chair hears none. Motion is carried. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, may we request to acknowledge the guests of Honorable Edgar Arice. They are the daycare workers. They are as follow: Vilma Guevara, Norberta Cruz, Loretta Belen, Dorita Pacho, Cristel Garcia, Rowena Manabat, Catherine Diata, Doreen Ore, Mary Jane Abon, Emelita Rodriguez. That's all, Mr. Speaker.
To the guests of the Honorable Edgar Erice, welcome to the House of Representatives. Thank you for your visit. Let's give them a round of applause. Thank you. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move to recognize the gentleman from Kamanggagawa Party List, Representative Elijah Romboa, San Fernando, to avail of the privilege hour.
Representative San Fernando is recognized. Please proceed.
Maraming salamat po, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, mga kasama, sa mga guro, kawani, estudyante, manggagawa, at ordinaryong Pilipino na nakikinig ngayon, magandang araw po. I rise today to talk about the proposed reframed General Education Curriculum Component, or RGECC, of the Commission on Higher Education. At first glance, these may appear to be a technical matter, a matter of subjects, units, course descriptions, and curriculum design. But if we dig deeper, we will see that it is so much more. This is an education issue. This is a labor issue. This is an academic freedom issue. And this is an access to quality education issue. The proposal reduces the minimum general education requirement from 36 units to 18 units. CHED may describe this as reframing, but in practical terms, this is a major reduction in the space given to general education in college. Mr. Speaker, we are not against education reform. We recognize the need to improve higher education, respond to changing social and technological conditions, and prepare students for work and contribute to national development. But reform must be based on evidence, grounded in genuine consultation, sensitive to labor consequences, legally sound, and responsive to the actual condition of Filipino learners. That condition, as shown by recent education data, is deeply alarming. The latest findings of the Second Congressional Commission on Education, or EDCOM-2, show that Filipino learners are not entering higher education from a position of strength. According to the report, by grade 10, only 1.36% reach at least proficient in early language, literacy, and numeracy. By grade 12, only 0.47% are considered at least proficient. EDCOM-2 described this as only about 4 in every 1,000 grade 12 learners are demonstrating skills such as problem solving, managing and communicating information, and analyzing and evaluating data to create or formulate ideas. Mr. Speaker, mga kasama, 4 in every 1,000. Yan po ang datos. If only 4 in every 1,000 grade 12 learners are reaching proficiency, then what is the basis for assuming that graduates are ready for a compressed general education curriculum in college? If students are already entering college with serious gaps in reading, numeracy, communication, critical thinking, and analytical skills, why is the policy response to reduce the space for general education? This means, Mr. Speaker, that the issue is not only simply whether students need fewer or more college units. The issue is whether students have mastered the basic competencies needed to meaningfully benefit from higher education. Kung mahina ang pundasyon, hindi dapat minamadali ang pagtatapyas sa mga kursong tumutulong magpalalim at magpatibay ng kaalaman. General education is not a burden to be minimized. It is one of the remaining institutional spaces where students can strengthen communication, critical thinking, ethics, historical understanding, scientific literacy, civic responsibility, and social awareness. That is why CHED must answer. What data show that reducing GE from 36 to 18 units will improve student learning outcomes? What data show that senior high school graduates are already prepared to absorb less general education in college? What data show that the competencies currently developed through separate GE subjects will be adequately preserved through integration? EDCOM2's final report points to a different priority: fixing the foundations of learning. Its roadmap emphasizes early childhood development, functional literacy, teacher support, and coordinated reforms across DepEd, CHED, and TESDA. Against that evidence, the proposed RGECC appears premature. Mr. Speaker, the second concern is legality and constitutionality. The position paper submitted by the Council of Teachers and Staff of Colleges and Universities of the Philippines, or COTESCUP, correctly reminds CHED that any new policies, standards, and guidelines on general education must be fully consistent with existing laws and with the 1987 Constitution. Higher education reform must not undermine academic freedom, due process, social justice, labor protections, security of tenure, and access to quality education. CHED has authority to set minimum standards for higher education, but that authority must be exercised in a manner consistent with academic freedom, institutional autonomy, due process, and labor rights. When a national curriculum policy changes what schools teach, how subjects are structured, which disciplines are retained as separate courses, and how faculty loads are affected, then the legal and constitutional basis must be clear. CHED must disclose that basis. Mr. Speaker, the third concern is labor impact. In many private higher education institutions, teaching load is directly tied to the number of units and courses offered. When required GE units are reduced, the effect is not limited to the curriculum grid. Subjects may be removed. Departments may lose offerings. Faculty may lose teaching loads. Part-time instructors may lose assignments. Probationary faculty may not be renewed. Permanent faculty may be reassigned. Some may suffer reduced income. Others may face demotion, forced early retirement, or even retrenchment. Sa papel, curriculum reform lang po ito. Pero sa aktual na buhay ng mga guro, Ang ibig sabihin po nito ay bawas load, bawas kita, bawas seguridad, at posibleng tanggal trabaho. That is why, Mr. Speaker, mga kasama, the Department of Labor and Employment must be part of the process. COTESCUP notes that there appears to be no mention of DOLE and its participation in the process. This is significant because the Education Act of 1982 recognizes the special employment status of teaching and academic non-teaching personnel. Any reform that affects teaching loads, assignments, and employment security requires coordination with DOLE to ensure protection of security of tenure and labor rights. Kapag ang pulisiya sa edukasyon ay may direktang epekto sa trabaho, kabuhayan at tenure ng mga guro, hindi pwedeng chat lang ho ang kausap sa mesa. Dapat kasama ang DOLE. Dapat kasama ang mga union. Dapat kasama ang mga faculty associations. Dapat kasama ang mga academic organizations. Dapat kasama ang mismong mga guro at kawani na maapektuhan. Faculty members cannot be treated as incidental casualties of curriculum reform. Mr. Speaker, the fourth concern is the weakening of general education itself. Based on available descriptions of the proposal, several current GE subjects may no longer remain as separate and mandatory courses. These include subjects that provide space for communication, ethics, history, arts, humanities, mathematics, science, technology, society, and critical inquiry. CHED may say that these areas will not be removed, only integrated. But integration is not the same as preservation. When a subject is removed as a separate and mandatory course, its depth may be reduced. Its visibility may be reduced. Its staffing may be reduced. Its institutional support may be reduced. These has academic and labor consequences. A country facing disinformation, historical distortion, inequality, unemployment, underemployment, weak labor protections, and democratic fragility needs stronger general education, not weaker. Hindi sapat na turuan ng mga estudyante para maging employable. Kailangan silang hubugin bilang mamamayan at bilang isang ganap na tao. A graduate who cannot communicate clearly is not workforce ready. A graduate who cannot analyze information is not workforce ready. A graduate who cannot understand society, ethics, and history is not ready for leadership, public service, or national development. Mr. Speaker, the fifth concern is the quality of consultation. Our comrades and friends from COTESCUP, in their position paper, raise a serious issue. The current survey structure appears to assume that the implementation of the new GE framework is inevitable. But the more fundamental question should be asked first. Do institutions, teachers, students, and academic communities agree with the proposed GE framework at all? Is the philosophy behind the reframing desirable and appropriate for Philippine higher education? Hindi konsultasyon ang tawag sa proseso kung ang tanong lang ay paano susunod sa pulisiyang tila na pagdesisyonan na. Ang tunay na konsultasyon ay may puwang para magsabi ng oo, hindi, o baka may kailangang mga baguhin. Teachers are not passive recipients of reform. They are education workers. They are frontliners in teaching and learning. Their professional judgment is indispensable in assessing whether this reform is academically sound, feasible, and beneficial to students. Mr. Speaker, mga kasama, CHED reportedly deferred implementation of the RGECC to 2028. We welcome this measure, and this is a welcome step. but the deferral period must be used for a serious, transparent, and inclusive review. Without this, implementation should not proceed. It is in this light that we, from Kamanggagawa Party List, call on CHED to suspend any final implementation of the reframed general education curriculum until it has disclosed the evidence, legal basis, and impact assessments supporting the proposal. Conducted genuine consultations with teachers, students, academic organizations, higher education institutions, faculty unions, and the Department of Labor and Employment, and completed a full labor impact assessment that protects faculty and academic personnel from deloading, income diminution, non-renewal, retrenchment, or any loss of rank, tenure, and benefits. In virtue of this representation, Mr. Speaker, will be filing a House resolution to investigate the lack of consultation for the draft policies, standards, and guidelines for the RGECC, its contentious contents, and other legal, academic, and labor-related gaps. For Kamanggagawa Party List, the position is clear. Hindi dapat ituring na excess ang general education. Hindi dapat gawing collateral damage ang mga guro. At hindi dapat ipagpalagay na handa na ang mga estudyante kung ang ebidensya mismo ang nagsasabing hindi pa. Any reform in higher education must be evidence-based, genuinely consultative, labor-sensitive, constitutionally sound, and socially responsible. Maraming salamat po, Mr. Speaker at mga kasama. Magandang hapon po sa ating lahat.
Thank you very much. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move to refer the speech of the Honorable Elijah San Fernando to the Committee on Rules for its appropriate action.
Is there any objection? The chair hears none. The privileged speech of Congressman San Fernando is referred to the Committee on Rules. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move to recognize Representative Presley C. De Jesus to avail of the privilege R.
Congressman Presley De Jesus is recognized. Please proceed.
Mr. Speaker, distinguished colleagues, I rise today to speak about an industry that has long been part of Philippine sporting life and Philippine culture. For generations, horse racing has brought people to the race course, gathered families and communities, supported workers, generated revenue for the government, and offered real potential for tourism and economic growth. I speak of the Philippine horse racing industry. As a boy, I remember vividly walking from our house to the racetrack with a stopwatch in my hand. I would watch the horses with fascination. I watched their speed, their discipline, and the excitement that gathered around every race. At that age, I did not yet understand the economy behind it. I did not yet know the breeders who invested in bloodline, the trainers who prepared the horses, the jockeys who risked themselves on the track, the grooms and stable workers who labored before sunrise, or the families whose daily needs were tied to this industry. I only knew that there was something special there. Years later, I understood it more clearly. Behind every race is a chain of Filipino workers, families, farms, stables, operators, and communities. Behind every race is an industry that deserves to be seen, protected, and given a fair chance to grow. Horse racing is one of the oldest organized sports industries in the Philippines. It has survived different administrations, economic cycles, and shifts in public entertainment. In 1974, the Philippine Racing Commission was created to supervise and regulate horse racing in the country. Even then, the state recognized horse racing as a source of revenue, employment, and sports development. But that was more than 50 years ago. Since then, the environment around this industry has transformed. Tourism has become more competitive. Gaming has become more sophisticated. Regional markets have moved in different directions. The cost of breeding, training, and maintaining horses has risen. The needs of jockeys, trainers, and racing workers have also become more urgent. Yet, many of the rules governing the industry remain tied to an earlier time. That is the situation we must address. Horse racing is an ecosystem. It supports breeders, horse owners, trainers, jockeys, veterinarians, grooms, stable hands, tellers, security personnel, race operators, farms, and local workers. It supports agriculture, animal breeding, sports, tourism, and regulated gaming. It contributes to the government revenues through taxes, fees, and regulatory charges. If developed purposefully, it can contribute even more. The numbers already show its value. In a Senate budget hearing in 2022, PhilRACOM reported that around 3 billion in total sales could generate around 900 million in annual government income. Government documents also recorded around 800 million in actual government revenue generated from gross sales in 2023. Yet, PhilRACOM's budget has remained modest at only around 200 million. This is the imbalance before us as an agency, as an industry that helped generate hundreds of millions of pesos for public coffers should not be left without enough capacity to develop the very sector that produces those revenues. It should not be limited to survival. It should be allowed to plan, modernize, and grow. This is especially important now because the regional landscape is shifting. Singapore has already ended horse racing after more than a century of history. Macau has also ended horse racing after more than 40 years. In India has faced serious pressures from heavy taxation on racing bets, with concerns that legal betting activity is being pushed away from the regulated system. These developments are a strategic opportunity for our country. In horse racing, there's a phrase called missing the break. It refers to a horse that fails to leave the starting gate cleanly when the race begins. The horse may have the strength, the speed, and the training to compete, but the poor start can cause it to lose ground before the race has even settled. That is the position we face today. In Philippines, it still has the horses, the workers, the racing culture, the gaming market, and the tourism potential to position itself as a leading horse racing destination in the region. But opportunity does not wait forever. If we hesitate while other markets are closing, struggling, or withdrawing, we may lose the advantage that is now before us. We should not miss this opportunity. The Philippines is already known as a gaming and tourism destination. We already have hotels, leisure estates, provincial racing communities, breeders, and investors. What we need is to connect these pieces into a clear national direction. Horse racing can become part of our tourism offering. It can bring people to our race courses, support local businesses around racing areas, and create events that attract visitors, enthusiasts, owners, and bettors from here and abroad. Other countries have shown what a well-organized racing industry can become. Japan is the clearest example in 2024. The Japan Racing Association recorded more than 3 trillion yen in betting turnover. From that, the national government share and surplus contribution reached more than 360 billion yen. The Philippines is not Japan, and we do not need to pretend that we can copy its model overnight. But we can learn from the principle behind it. Without sound regulation, a competitive tax structure, and deliberate public support, horse racing can become a larger source of jobs, investment, tourism, and public revenue. At present, the tax burden on horse racing tickets and betting transactions affect participation. Every additional cost on a ticket affects the bettor. Every reduced payout affects interest. Every inconsistency in tax treatment makes the system harder to administer and harder to understand. If the rate is too high, bettors move away. If bettors move away, volume declines. If volume declines, government revenue also suffers. Worse, activity can move to foreign platforms or informal markets where the Philippine government earns nothing. A fairer and more uniform tax structure can bring more participation back into the regulated system. More legal wagers mean more taxable transaction. More transactions mean greater volume. Greater volume can help sustain government revenue while giving the industry space to compete. This is not about removing the government share. It is about making what the government receives bigger and more sustainable. A tax policy that slowly weakens the industry will not protect revenue in the long run. A tax policy that encourages legal participation can protect revenue while supporting growth. We must also look at the institution governing the industry. PIRACOM, or the Philippine Racing Commission, has served an important role as regulator. But the modern racing industry needs more than regulation. It needs development, planning, revenue, monitoring, breeding support, worker protections, animal welfare programs, and the capacity to respond to competition from other jurisdictions. A regulator that is expected to help develop an industry must be given tools to do so. At present, PIRACOM remains a national government agency that limits its flexibility. It regulates the industry, but it does not have the full fiscal and institutional capacity needed to drive growth. If we want the racing industry to modernize, then its institutional framework must also be modernized. A stronger structure can allow better revenue management, better development planning, better support for breeding, better race operations, and better accountability. It can also ensure that proceeds from racing are not only collected, but partly reinvested into the industry that generated them. Workers' welfare must also be at the center. When people watch a race, they often focus on the horse, but the person riding that horse faces real danger. Jockeys risk serious injury. Trainers and stable workers perform demanding labor, raising personal work in an industry where accidents, disability, and death are real occupational risks. There's already a benefit mechanism for jockeys and trainers, but the law is old and the benefit amounts have not kept pace with the present realities. Protection that made sense decades ago may no longer be enough today. If the law freezes benefits in an outdated amount, then the promise of protection becomes weaker each year. Industry development and worker protection must move together. We cannot speak of modernization if the people who sustain the races remain vulnerable. We cannot speak of growth if the jockeys, trainers, and workers who carry the industry are left behind. A stronger racing industry must also mean stronger protection for those who make racing possible. The same is true for breeding. Racing does not begin where the starting gate opens. It begins with breeding decisions, veterinary care, stable discipline, bloodline development, and in the long work of patient training and preparation. If we want Philippine horse racing to compete, then breeding and animals' health must be treated as central part of the industry. A serious racing industry needs a serious breeding program. It needs a national stud farm that is aligned with the development of race horses, genetic improvement, animal health, and long-term industry competitiveness. Mr. Speaker, the choice before us is clear. We can allow horse racing to remain trapped in old rules, uneven taxes, limited institutional capacity, and outdated benefit structures. If we do that, we should not be surprised if the industry slowly weakens. Or we can treat it as an existing economic sector that deserves modernization. A fairer tax structure can increase participation. A stronger institution can improve regulation and development. Better benefits can protect jockeys and trainers. A serious breeding program can improve competitiveness. A clearer policy direction can attract investment. A better tourism strategy can bring people to our race courses. This is responsible industry policy. We are not being asked to abandon regulation. Regulation must remain firm, but it must also be intelligent. Revenue must be protected, but not by exhausting the very activity that produces. A mature policy does not preserve the past for its own sake. It gives us an old industry the chances to adapt to a new market. The Philippines is still a racing industry worth saving and worth growing. We have passionate owners who continue to invest. We have breeders who continue to produce horses. We have jockeys and trainers who continue to work despite risk. We have workers and families who depend on the sport. We have enthusiasts who continue to believe that Philippine horse racing can compete. But momentum must be met with action. By the time a racehorse closes, a whole ecosystem has already been weakened. By the time workers lost their livelihoods, modernization has come too late. By the time the bettors, investors, and tourists have chosen other markets, the opportunity has already passed. The race is not yet over. But if we want Philippine horse racing to remain alive, competitive, and beneficial to the Filipino people, government cannot afford to miss the break. Again, thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Magandang gabi po sa atin lahat.
Thank you very much. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that the privileged speech of Representative Presley De Jesus be referred to the Committee on Rules for appropriate action.
Is there any objection? Chair hears none. The privileged speech of Honorable De Jesus is hereby referred to the Committee on Rules. Majority Leader?
Mr. Speaker, there being no other members who wishes to avail of the privilege hour, I move to close the privilege hour.
Is there any objection? Chair hears none. Motion is carried. Majority Leader?
Mr. Speaker, I move to suspend session for a few minutes.
Session suspended. Session is resumed. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, considering that copies of Journal Number 37 dated May 25 and 26, 2026 were already distributed to the members, I move to dispense with the reading thereof and subsequently to approve the said journal.
Is there any objection? Chair hears none. The motion is approved. The reading of the said journal is dispensed with, and Journal Number 37 dated May 25 and 26, 2026 is hereby approved. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move to suspend session for a few minutes.
Session suspended. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move to take up additional reference of business and request that the Secretary
Mr. Speaker, I move
Mr.
to
Speaker.
adjourn. We have no quorum.
move to suspend session for a few minutes, Mr.
Session
Speaker.
suspended. Does he need to withdraw his vote? Withdraw his motion. Session is resumed. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move to take up additional reference to business and request that the Secretary General be directed to read the title of bills and resolutions on first reading, as well as communications and committee reports, Mr.
Is there any objection? Chair hears none. Secretary General is directed to read the titles of bills and resolutions as well as committee reports for referral to the appropriate committees.
Additional reference of business, committee reports. Committee report number 417 submitted by the Committee on Cooperatives Development, the Committee on Ways and Means, and the Committee on Appropriations on House Bill number 9584, an act providing for the revised Cooperative Code of the Philippines.
To the Committee on Rules.
Committee report number 418 submitted by the Committee on Muslim Affairs on House Bill number 9597, an act including a representative from the Balik Islam community in the National Commission on Muslim Filipinos, amending for the purpose Section 5, Article 1 of Republic Act number 9997 as amended, otherwise known as the National Commission on Muslim Filipinos Act of 2009.
To the Committee on Rules.
Committee report number 419 submitted by the Committee on Justice on House Bill number 9598, an act granting Philippine citizenship to Guillaume Lucci.
To the Committee on Rules.
Committee report number 420 submitted by the Committee on Justice on House Bill number 9599, an act granting Philippine citizenship to Andres Miguel Soriano IV.
To the Committee on Rules.
Committee report number 421 submitted by the Special Committee on Creative Industries and House Resolution number 553, resolution congratulating and commending Quezon City and Dumaguete City for their inclusion in the UNESCO Creative Cities Network in the fields of film and literature respectively, and recognizing their significant contribution to the promotion of Philippine creativity, culture, and sustainable urban development.
To the Committee on Rules.
Committee report number 422 submitted by the Special Committee on Creative Industries and House Resolution number 935, a resolution congratulating and commending Mariel Montellano and Bisdak J.M. de la Serna for winning a historic back-to-back championship on Your Face Sounds Familiar 2026 and in Tawag ng Tanghalan Duet Season 1.
To the Committee on Rules.
Committee report number 423 submitted by the Committee on Information and Communications Technology and the Committee on Appropriations on House Bill number 9605, an act establishing the National Cybersecurity Agency, strengthening the protection of critical information infrastructure and providing funds therefor.
To the Committee on Rules. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move to adjourn session until tomorrow, June 2, Tuesday, 3 o'clock p.m.
This session is adjourned until tomorrow, Tuesday, June 2 at 3 p.m.